Hello, friend. Good evening. Today, मैंने एक बहुत ही मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट टॉपिक लेके आया हूँ जो आई थिंक बहुत ही कॉमन टॉपिक है सारे कम्पिटिटिव एग्ज़ाम्स में और बेसिक फंडामेंटल क्लियर के लिए भी ये टॉपिक बहुत ज़रूरी है. द टॉपिक इज़ फिस्कल फेडरलिज्म because all the states are dependent on center after the GST गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज टैक्स जब से इम्प्लीमेंट हुआ है. सो थोड़ा सा हम डीप डाइव करेंगे फिस्कल फेडरलिज्म के बारे में. मीन्स स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द बिगनिंग, स्टार्टिंग फ्रॉम द इंडिपेंडेंस 1947 to the current situation. It will be like 10 to 15 minutes discussion, but I believe this will clarify all the doubts जो हमारे दिमाग में है वो क्लियर कर देगा. सो लेट्स स्टार्ट. तो हम इसको क्वेश्चंस एंड आंसर फॉर्मेट में इसको रखेंगे. मीन्स हेडिंग्स एंड देन एनालिसिस, हेडिंग्स एंड एनालिसिस. सो पहला हम स्टार्ट करते हैं इवोल्यूशन ऑफ फिस्कल फेडरलिज्म. तो fiscal federalism refers to the financial relations between the country's central government and other units of government. Basically, it's a financial relation between central government and other units of government, means union territories, states, and all the other units of government. It essentially represents how expenditure and revenue are allocated across different layers of the government administration. Fiscal federalism helps government realize cost efficiency by economies of scale in providing public services, which corresponds most closely to the preference of the people. Evolution of fiscal federalism can be traced back to 18th century when Alexander Hamilton in his Federalist Papers written in 1780s stated that a multi-layered government, that is federal, permits various functions to be assumed by different layers, potentially improving the efficiency of government since different activities have different optimal scales. In India, fiscal federalism as it stands today is a result of historical evolution which originated in pre-independence India. Over time, through various commission, committee and parliamentary enactment, a rigid unitary system with immense scope of discretionary power to the central government was formed into a constitutionally regulated federal system. The evolution of fiscal federalism in India has its roots from 1858 when the British government assumed direct sovereignty over the Indian territory. At that time, there was no standardized system of accounting and annual budgets did not exist. Central government retained the entire control on finances and made grants of money at its discretion to meet the demands of local governments. Local governments collected revenue as agents of central government, resulting into direct interest in the result of collection. However, the need to decentralize the financing system was an inevitable necessity in a country as diverse and vast as India. Substantive effort in the freedom struggle led to the British government's declaration in 1917 of gradually introducing responsible government in India. This was followed by the Government of India Act 1919 based on Montagu-Chelmsford reforms, which introduced a system of diarchy dividing the administrative subject and sources of revenue into two categories: central and provincial. The first category was administered by councillors appointed by the crown. The second was administered by ministers who were chosen by the governor from the elected members of the provincial legislature. Though the system of fixed grants from central revenues was continued, which led to increase in horizontal imbalances amongst provinces, but it also gave thrust to the process of decentralization. In 1927, Simon Commission reviewed the Government of India Act 1919 and recommended the establishment of a Federation of India, states and provinces. Thereafter, the Expert Committee of 1931, with Lords Viscount Peel as the chairman, examined the fiscal relation between the center and provinces and suggested sharing of income tax between center and provinces while fixing the share of provinces for a period of 5 years. Based on these recommendations, the Government of India Act 1935 was brought forth, which established a federal system with provinces and Indian states as two distinct units. Thus, the Act of 1919 and Act of 1935 established a basic structure of fiscal federalism in India, where Act of 1919 provided for a separation of revenue heads between the center and provinces, and the Act of 1935 allowed for sharing of center's revenue and for the provision of granting aids to provinces. At the time of independence in 1947, when India was beset with multiple problems including partition, a refugee crisis, fledgling institutions, and ill-equipped colonial machinery, the vision and pragmatic approach of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel helped in unification of more than 560 princely states with the Union of India, laying the foundation for a federal structure in India. The federal character of public finance in India. So now we will discuss on the federal character of public finance in India. The Constituent Assembly had significant debates on the federal nature of Indian Constitution. Federalism became an essence of the Constitution. This was explained by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in these eloquent words. The draft constitution is federal constitution in as much as it establishes what may be called a dual polity. This dual polity under the promised constitution will consist of the union at the center and the states at the periphery, each endowed with sovereign powers to be exercised in the field assigned to them, respectively, by the Constitution. The Indian Constitution, adopted in 1950, defines India as secular, federal, socialist union of states. Both center and state have separate legislative, executive, and judicial arms. The seventh schedule of the Constitution demarcates the powers and function of union and the states, with union list, state list, and concurrent list. The subject in union list include atomic energy, defense, national highway, railway, airways, and those having significant scale of economies. The subject in the state list include matters with significant developmental potential within the states. The Constitution also specifies taxation powers of both the center and the state and the principles governing the sharing of revenue and certain other resources post implementation of Goods and Services Act, which is shared between center and states. Central government retains the exclusive right for income tax, corporates and individual, while states have the right to collect stamp duty, excise duty on alcoholic beverages, registration and commercial use of vehicle, and few other minor taxes. Central transfers to states. This is the topic. India is not unique in this sense, as intergovernmental transfer is a common feature in many countries that have a federal structure, and even in unitary system, transfer from union to local governments is ubiquitous. In India, in order to correct the vertical and horizontal imbalance and for equitable and efficient development, the central government transfers funds to state governments as general purpose transfer and specific purpose transfers. The general purpose transfers are untied funds developed to the state governments via the Finance Commission. Finance Commission that constitutes substantial share of the total central transfers is appointed every 5 years since 1951 under the article 275 to 278 of the Constitution with the purpose of addressing the horizontal and vertical imbalance. It recommends the criteria for devolution of central taxes to states and the principles for distribution of grant in aids. So far, 14 Finance Commission have completed their arm and 15th Finance Commission has already made recommendation for 2020-21. Remaining central transfers to states are in the form of specific purpose transfers, which may also be termed as tied transfers, as these transfers are tied for a specific purpose, mostly in social sector areas such as health, education, labor, skill development, etc., that govern a part of national development agenda and cut across state boundaries. These transfers are made by the concerned central ministries, departments, in the form of centrally sponsored schemes. Up till 2014-15, the developmental plan transfers made by the erstwhile Planning Commission also constituted tied transfers. The Planning Commission transfers included formula based transfers of normal central assistance and discretionary transfers such as special plan assistance, assistance for externally aided project, etc. The responsibility of funds allocation is now entrusted to the Ministry of Finance. Transfers of resources to local bodies. So, how transfers of money to the local bodies like panchayat, municipal, and all. The devolution of powers to the states without any further decentralization at the level of sub-state, that is local government bodies, was very weak before the 1990s. It was only after 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts passed in 1992, the two-tiered Indian federal structure evolved into three-tiered structure, giving constitutional status to the rural and urban local bodies respectively. Under CAA, the state legislature are expected to devolve responsibilities, powers and authorities to the panchayats and municipalities in order to bring about greater decentralization and to increase the involvement of the community in implementing schemes, bringing transparency in decision making, ensuring accountability and monitoring of outcomes. Article 243I and Article 243Y further necessitated constitution of State Finance Commission at regular interval of 5 years to decide distribution of net proceed of taxes between state and panchayats, determination of taxes, duties, tolls, etc. to be assigned to panchayat and municipalities, granting aids to be provided to the panchayat and municipalities, redefining fiscal federalism to ensure better utilization of fund. So, federalism has evolved over time in light of contemporary needs and development priorities. While the basic principle of federalism remains the same, a number of developments over the years, such as liberalization in 1991, introduction of VAT in 2005, and more recent changes like introduction of GST in 2017, scrapping of planning commission, and constitution of uh, a Niti Aayog in 2015, and also rationalization of centrally sponsored scheme have led to increased devolution of united funds, which had constantly changed the center state fiscal relations. Last few years witnessed certain major procurement which brought about structural changes in central center state financial relation. So what are the changes? Structural changes. First, increase in united funds devolved to states. Finance Commission transfers comprising tax devolution and grants to the states have remained the major sources of transfers to the states. These transfers increased from 60.1% of total transfers in the award period of Financial Commission 8th to 68.6% in the award period of Financial Commission 10th, and remained stable till the award period of Financial Commission 12th. In Financial Commission 13th, with restructuring of centrally sponsored schemes, the share of non-financial commission transfers increased to around 32%. However, following the recommendation of Finance Commission 14th to increase the share of union tax proceed from 32% to 42%, the biggest increase ever. The share of Finance Commission grants in total transfers increased to 74%. This whopping increase of 10% in the share of union tax proceeds underpins the objective of greater fiscal autonomy to states, thereby enabling them to design their own expenditure priorities and undertake state specific development schemes based upon their own assessment. Apart from the structural changes in the intergovernmental transfers, the quantum of central transfers to states, which rose from 5.61 lakh crore in 2011-12 to 6.71 lakh crore in 2014-15, increased significantly to rupees 11.18 lakh crore in 2019-20. This has provided a significant leeway to the states to enhance their developmental expenditure. Rationalization of centrally sponsored scheme. Over time, following the recommendation of important committees, subgroup, that total number of centrally sponsored scheme has evolved over time from 190 at the end of 5th plan to 360 at the end of 9th plan to 66 at the beginning of 12th plan. The most recent rationalization took place in 2016-17 based on the recommendation of subgroup of chief ministers on rationalization of centrally sponsored scheme. Based on the recommendation of the report submitted by the subgroup formulated under Niti Aayog, the number of centrally sponsored schemes were reduced from 66 to 28. The funding pattern of core schemes was changed for large states to 60 is to 40. This is the ratio of participation, 60% center and 40% state, from 70 to 30 earlier. The flexibility for states to use funds as per their local needs and requirement within schemes was increased by 10% earlier to 25%. Each ministry department along with Niti Aayog were recommended to evolve transparent criteria for allocation under each scheme. Niti Aayog was entrusted with carrying out third party evaluation to improve efficiency of expenditure and to improve outcomes. Third is end to centralized planning era and discretionary grants. Any end to centralized planning era and discretionary grants, that is at the time of planning commission. So plan and non-plan distinction in the budgeting exercise was done away with with by the Union Budget 2017 and 18. With increase in general devolution and united transfers, discretionary transfers such as additional central assistance, special plan assistance, special central assistance granted by erstwhile planning commission were discontinued. Fourth, introduction of GST, goods and services tax. One of the biggest fiscal reforms in independent India was introduction of goods and services tax. The constitution now with article 279A provided for creation of GST council, which is a joint forum of union and states entrusted with responsibility of making recommendation on GST rates, taxes, cesses, exemption, etc. This unique institution has been working in an exemplary manner, resonating cooperative federalism where center and states jointly decide on the taxes and related matters. Fifth, outcome based budgeting. An important expenditure reforms was introduced in 2017 and 18 with the formulation of output outcome framework for 68 ministries, department along with union budget document, data monitoring and evaluation office DMEO of Niti Aayog and public finance states of Ministry of Finance are key coordinator in finalizing and monitoring this framework. It is an important transition from mere outlays of schemes to result oriented outputs and outcomes. Now, the main topic is the role of Niti Aayog in strengthening federalism. Niti Aayog substituted erstwhile Planning Commission with effect from January 1st, 2015 and has since engaged itself in strengthening cooperative and competitive federalism for rapid economic transformation. Niti Aayog recognizes the fact that the states are the economic growth engines and are equal partners in national development. On the premise that strong states make a strong nation, a number of initiatives have been taken by Niti Aayog to foster cooperative federalism through structured support initiative and mechanism of engagement with the states UTs on a continuous basis. These include meeting between prime ministers, cabinet ministers with all chief ministers, subgroup of chief ministers on subject of national importance, sharing of best practice, policy support and capacity development of a state, union territories functionaries, launching of the aspirational districts program for development of backward districts, theme based extensive engagement in various sectors, framing model, laws for land leasing and agriculture marketing reforms, and area specific interventions for northeastern Himalayan states and island development. The Governing Council of Niti Aayog, comprising chief ministers of all the states and UTs, union territories, with legislatures and lieutenant governors of other union territories, provide a platform whereby the center and the states Team India can come together to resolve differences and chart a common course to progress and prosperity. So far, 5 meetings of councils have been held. Apart from designing a strategic and long-term policy and program for the Government of India, Niti Aayog has been providing relevant technical advice to the center, states and UTs. Niti Aayog has also established models and programs for development of infrastructure and to reignite and establish private public partnership such as center state partnership model, development support service to states and union territories, and the sustainable action for transforming human capital program. Further, with the aim of correcting regional developmental imbalance, Niti Aayog has taken special steps for areas requiring special attention and support, such as those in Northeast, Island, and the Himalayas. Niti has constituted a special forum to identify these states specific constraints and formulate special policies to ensure sustainable development while protecting the abundant natural resources in the region. In a unique initiative, Niti Aayog has endeavored to promote competitive federalism by facilitating improved performance of state UTs by encouraging healthy competition through transparent ranking in various sectors along with hand-holding approach. Some of the indices launched by Niti Aayog include Education Index, Health Index, Composite Water Management Index, SDG Index, Delta ranking for performance of aspirational district. Dynamic real time based portals have been put in place to facilitate states UTs to feed UTs to feed data and monitor states and UTs to feed data and monitor their performance in various sectors vis-a-vis other states UTs, including third party validation of data. Once districts compete amongst themselves, state would emerge stronger, and when states compete among themselves, nation becomes stronger. This is one of the key elements of governance in pursuit towards transforming India. This will help us weaken the tendency for competitive populism and replace it with competitive good governance. So going forward, what will be our going forward? The challenge of striking balance between efficiency and equity has always been a critical aspect in federalism. Meeting the aspiration of a state is the foremost priority of Indian fiscal federalism. One of the greatest achievements in the realm of center-state relation is that states are seen as drivers of not only the country's growth but also improving the lives of the citizen across the country. The recent experience of tackling COVID crisis is a successful example of how center and states have worked together to fight the pandemic, which has created havoc throughout the world. Likewise, steps have also been taken for localization of sustainable development goals so as to identify specific steps at the subnational level. Center and state relations have important fiscal implications for country finances, such as sharing ratio of total debt among center and state, fiscal marksmanship, empowerment of rural and urban local bodies, rationalization of subsidies and user charges reforms in order to restrict fiscally unconducive policies. With constantly changing economic condition, development of new technologies and evolving new governance structure, new reforms are required in public financial management system both at center and state level. Effective management of centrally sponsored schemes, efficient government procurement policy, transparent financial reporting, uniform accounting procedures, direct benefit transfers, and integrated list of beneficiaries across the states. There must be mechanism in place to reward best performers, be it states or district or even at block levels. Two-way communication channels need to remain open all the time so that the issue get resolved quickly and development is not hampered. Only then the vision of developed India can be realized in its truest form. Thank you.